We have the Controller General of Patents and Trademark India, Mr. Chaitanya Prasad. Dr. Kardam on his right, he is the controller, joint controller of patents. Then we have Dr. Nilanjana, who takes care of the biotech patents at Delhi office. And then we have Dr. Patil here from Bombay office.
Okay. And then we also have Dr. Ravi there.
Yes, that is me.
I'm Dr. Marti Lakshmi Kumaran. Being a scientist in biotechnology and then shifted my career to patent law. I know most of you all have worked there. I am actually moderating on behalf of Bio. We will have questions yesterday and day before.
Right.
And I will tell you start the session. We also have other people, Dr. Rakesh Mehta. He's from the firm in Delaware. Hello.
Right.
I work with the government and we also have hi, my name is Susan Reardon and I'm with Johnson and Johnson.
Hi, nice to see you.
We have many more. Yeah. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of questions, and I'm going to drive this session today. Firstly, I would like to thank all of you all. I know it is pretty late, and we appreciate you taking your valuable time coming to people in Bio. So on behalf of Bio 2013 in Chicago, I would like to really thank all of the IPO, which is Chaitanya Prasad, for transparency, that has been there in the IPO system. What I mean by transparency is, as I said, and there are lots of documents. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you, people are very happy with iPad and going around the last day. People are very happy with iPad. There are a lot of documents that are being uploaded. People are able to search them, and that is one of the platforms. I heard some people as compared to last year, which is very, very nice. The thing that people are happy about is filing, and what she said is it's so that you can upload your postal, complete national state applications, and all the e-files. And also what they find is, as compared to last year, a lot of e-filing of formalities can take place. Form 27 can be uploaded, Form 3 can be uploaded, and so on. So there's a big change from last couple of years this year in transparency in the IPO, e-filing, uploading of documents, and that is very, very happy people are. The only thing that is like is, can we do searches? Can we do searches on the full text? If that can happen, it will be very, very useful. So that is one. The other thing that people are very happy is the involvement of stakeholders in a dialogue. So if you have e-filing, they're very happy, people are very happy that the IPO is coming forward, dialoguing with people, dialoguing with the stakeholders, taking the suggestions and coming forward. So that is something which is very nice. And for example, in the biotech guidelines, I can see Dr. Patil, Dr. Kardam and Nilanjana here. As the biotech guidelines, we put up the draft biotech guidelines and asking for suggestions, meeting with stakeholders and actually looking into those things. So this is something that is very, very positive. And it is coming to a fruition, and so this is what I wanted to give you the feedback on the ground in Bio of the IPO. I have told people have been talking about Novartis and the compulsory license. People are very, very upset about it. But we have explained, I being a biotechnologist and being an patent agent, I explained to them about the Novartis, and there are sort of people whom I talk are pretty happy that what is the ground reality, and that they shouldn't be very upset about the Novartis judgment, about the compulsory licensing. So there are a couple of people, I have others with me and others, whom we are going and trying to disseminate that this judgment shouldn't be looked at in negative light, and it should be looked at what is done with the statute that we have. And so we are trying to spread that. These are some of the issues, so we are not going to talk about the Novartis or the compulsory licensing, because I know it will not be possible to answer those questions by you. You have any, so we are not going to take up. I know it has been too much, there is so much of talk about Novartis and compulsory license, but I know that this is not the forum for us to ask such questions here. What we have, other questions that have come up is about Section 8. Besides Novartis and compulsory license, people are very worried about two things, Section 8 and Form 27. They need more clarity on that. Now, Section 8, especially H2, but I would like to first deal with Section 8.1. The question that is 8.1, we want more clarity, and if it comes out with better guidelines by the IPO, it will be very nice. So 8.1 is Form 3. If the question is, do we need to keep on updating on the status of the corresponding applications is one question, or do we need to inform the patent office on what are all the corresponding applications? I think a clarity on that is needed. And the second is about related inventions. So what people say to me is, if there is a PCT application, all corresponding applications of the PCT, they are ready to give all the details. They are ready to comply with Form B. They are ready to comply with 8.1. They say that is the statute. They are ready to do work on that. The only thing that they have problem is when it is not related to a PCT application and it is a different application, and according to them that is not a related invention, it is another invention and not a joint or not, doesn't have a common or same PCT application, then they find the question is, how do we know what these related inventions are? Because it says substantially the same invention, and that clarity, if it can come, it will be very helpful. Because you could find a PCT application for a process or something else like a polymorph 2-3 years later. And then if you have to supply that information, they are wary about it and they want some clarity from the patent office on that. The second thing that they have is about Section H2. Why are you worried about Section 8? I mean, everyone I meet is, oh, your famous Section 8. And we are trying to educate them and telling them, don't say that. A lot of countries, Israel needs on the prior art, US needs it in the IDF. Everybody needs it. I think every country has its own way of asking for prior art documents or office actions. And so India is not unique in that way. We have been spreading the message here. However, what the problem is, sometimes in the Section H2, when we get during prosecution and office action, they are asking major countries or all countries, so there is no clarity. So when you say major countries, the first question, I had many people come and ask me, what is a major country? And so today I consider US, EP as major countries. And tomorrow you might come back and tell me, no, Korea is a major country, China is a major country. So they want clarity and specific questions or specific objections raised by the controller on Section 8. Three, what are the grounds for revoking a patent, and they are very worried about it. They want to comply with Section 8. They're very happy to comply with Section 8.1 and 8.2, but they said it will be help them a lot if they get clarity, especially on US, if they say major countries, US would be Japan. They're ready to do that. But asking for all countries, he says it is too much of a burden for us to ask for OPEC all countries and also what is a major country. And today, they all say, oh, your patent office has become very, very friendly. Your way of filing national state applications have become very easy. The patent office can pull everything from the WIPO. Why is it that they cannot pull up the ISR, IPR, or the US professional code? So this is something, clarity on Section H2. If the controllers can ask for specific countries, it will help us a lot. So this is some of the things that are questions, and now I leave it to Mr. Chaitanya Prasad to give his views, and then I leave it open to the others from this side. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Malti, and good afternoon to you and all of you over there. We are very happy to meet with you and also share your experiences and our experiences. And thank you also for the good words that you have said about the patent office and the changes that are happening. A couple of things that we are trying is to make the experience of the applicant and the agent more better, and the services that we provide to them more efficient. And two ways that we have adopted is, one, by increasing the ease of filing with us and making ourselves more transparent and open to everybody. The ease, as you said, we started e-filing the last year for all forms, and earlier only you could file the Form 1 with us through e-filing. Now you can file all forms and all whatever is required in the patent office through our e-filing module. We have done another thing which has been which has brought in ease to the applicant, and that is we have accessed the PCT applications through Patent Scope, and due to which now the applicants do not have to file bulky documents with us, because we access those documents directly from the WIPO, the PCT applications from WIPO. Apart from that, as far as openness and transparency are concerned, one, we do ensure that everything that is done in our office is in a chronological order, and we hope that there is no exception to that, or even if it is, it would be unintentional, and it is all through an electronic module through which nobody can disturb. Also, everything that we do is up on a file wrapper on the website, and we hope that people are able to see and search through our website in an efficient manner. Now, some of the concerns that we have noted, obviously some of the concerns that you said in the beginning about the Novartis judgment, about the compulsory license, as you very rightly pointed out, these are judgments. One, the Novartis judgment, which has been upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court, and the compulsory license, both are under the statutes and which utilize the flexibilities under TRIPS. And we do hope that it is appreciated that something like the compulsory license, where a medicine that was made available to the public at around $5,000 a month is now being made available to them at much lower cost, which is around $300 per month. $160 per month, which the availability was also not there. So these are things that have contributed to public health and the socio-economic welfare of the citizens of the country, and which also is very much a provision of the patent ecosystem, which of course the first interest in that is for the public and for the technological advancement of society also, while keeping public health and public service in mind. Coming to the other issues, as you said, Section 8, where an applicant is required to disclose the status of processing in other jurisdictions as required by the controller. This, of course, is a provision again of the statute, and while we do try to bring in more uniformity and consistency in the application of various statutes and rules within our controllers and our office, we cannot as such interpret or restrict the applicability of the section by the Patent Office itself. Now, we do realize that large MNCs and large corporations which file in numerous jurisdictions, they do also have large internal or external prosecuting attorneys and prosecuting offices, and they do keep large databases. We do expect that they would be able to provide information to our patent office as required by the controllers, and it should be a part of the process that they plan for when they apply in our country, because that is an obligation and onus that is cast on them by our law. As you said also, that this is, our country is not the only country which has a law which puts an onus on the applicant. As you said very in the beginning, the United States also puts an onus on the applicant as far as prior art is concerned. The nearest prior art has to be disclosed by them. This is an onus that has been put by the Indian statute, and we cannot as such restrict that responsibility that has been cast on the controller as well as on the applicant by the patent office itself. I would also, before coming back, I would like Dr. Kardam to expand further on the issues of Section 8.2 and Form 27 before we come back on other issues. Dr. Kardam.
Good morning, Ms. Malti, and thank you very much, sir. As you read the provisions of Section 8, the section subsection 1 itself provides that the applicant is required to submit the information relating to corresponding applications filed outside India. If already filed at the time of filing of the application in India or within certain period of time, and the application filed after filing in India also need to be given within certain period of time. The Section 2 follows from Section 1. When applicants give the detail that these are the applications he is prosecuting, he has filed in foreign countries, and in fact they provide a table in the Form 4 itself that these are the countries where he has filed corresponding applications. So while implementing the provisions of Section 8.2, the controller cannot ask the applications other than which you have disclosed. So which you have disclosed already that you have filed all those applications so and so countries. So the controller may ask about the processing or the status of those applications which you have already disclosed. Regarding the issue relating to same application and substantially the same, this is applicable to the corresponding application which has been filed in that country, or substantially same means that may include the divisional application which might have been divided out of the main application, or maybe a patent of addition of that particular invention. So these are 2-3 applications are covered under the substantially same application. So I think it should not be a much worried provision, or you need not to do any research on that, because ultimately the applicant himself is disclosing the details of the applications which they have filed outside India. So you have to give the information processing or their status of those applications to the controller, not any other which you have not disclosed. I hope it is very clear.
So, Dr. Malti, do you want Dr. Patil to speak something about the recent document that he has brought on?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Chaitanya Prasad for bringing about telling us all about the transparency, uploading of documents on the website. The only whether what is in major countries, it is not a mandatory requirement, it is a discretionary requirement, and I would ask the Controller General to come out with guidelines on what is a major country, so that there is more clarity on what is a major country. As far as Section 8 is concerned,
Yeah,
I will also take
we have taken note of that. We will have to see whether we can we can restrict the freedom of the controller as such. But we have taken note of that, and we'll see what can be done about that. What we do want is to ensure that there is some kind of consistency in our office. We'll talk to our controllers and see what we can do. But again, as I said, we will not be able to restrict the freedom of the controllers as far as what the statute has given to them.
Sure. I have Dr. Ramsey. Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Chaitanya Prasad, for the clarity. We appreciate this because I'm so happy that you're talking to the stakeholders on this. We have two questions on the biotech guidelines.
Yeah.
I know world over gene patenting is becoming an issue. There is a Supreme Court in the US on a Myriad case, in Australia, EC, and so on. The one Dr. Patil can give you all the biotech guidelines. And one more request that we have, one question is about the NBA. If you don't use bioresources which are Indian, objections are coming, please give NBA approval. So this is, if we can have a stakeholders meeting of NBA, the patent office and the stakeholders to resolve these issues, it will be very helpful. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Malti. This is Dr. Dinesh Patil, and regarding the biotech guidelines, I think so you are also aware about that we have already published the draft guidelines, and you people have already submitted your observations or comments thereon. Thereafter, we had a stakeholders meeting. We had a very extensive discussion on that, and you may be aware about what are the provisions we have given there into the guidelines. So I don't think so that it is again required to go through all those provisions which we have mentioned there. As far as that NBA permission requirement, as you rightly said, when you are not using any biological material or bioresource from India, so I don't think so there is an issue of any objection from the patent office regarding the permission from the NBA. This particular clause is for the bioresources which are obtained from India. In that case only we are objecting and requiring that particular permission. Otherwise, in case of an application originated from abroad, maybe from US where they are using the biological material from their country, in that case I don't think so it is required, and there may not be an objection of such kind.
Original source का बता दीजिए.
But at the same time the requirement of section 10 has to be fulfilled, that there must be a disclosure regarding the source and geographical origin, even it is not from India, from which country you are obtained. And we have already given in TK as well as biotech guideline that you must provide at least one paragraph or heading into the specification which discloses the source and geographical origin of that biological material. And if it is there, after examining that particular application, if I find that it is not from India, certainly the subsequent objection will not be there, and no issue of that benefit sharing and all things arises.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Patil, Dr. Kannan, and Secretary Prasad on this. There are some issues that maybe when we come over to talk to you, because some people are saying we use rice germplasm. We've isolated genes from rice. And so there are questions that I think I could come and talk to you all. We have not taken the rice from India, but rice went outside India years before, and they used rice from France. And the question then becomes is, if I have not used the bioresource from India, so that's a question. I think it would be very good if we can have another stakeholders meeting along with the NBA. I have several questions that people have asked me here. This may not be the right forum, but definitely we could discuss about the NBA and the source and geographical origin of material. So I think that's a lot. I have other people in the hand. I open the floor, and any of the ones who are
Opening the floor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rakesh Mehta. I speak. Yes, that's actually good law. And I'm understand that the awards issue is off the table in terms of discussion. However, I do want to make a quick comment, and I hope you appreciate that I'm not trying to bring it into a discussion, but just as a matter of comment. While I personally agree with the Supreme Court's ruling, the Indian Supreme Court's ruling in the Novartis case and how the law was applied, I completely concur with that assessment. As it relates to India's interest in innovation, that decision is viewed, the optics of that decision are not very favorable. That's my only comment. And I completely agree with you, Controller, that's how the law was applied, and that the Indian Supreme Court applying the law, and that's the legislative issue. But nevertheless, the optics do not seem to be very good as it relates to innovation. That's my only comment. If you have a follow-up comment to that, I really welcome that, but it's not, I understand that that issue is not up for discussion. Thank you. Okay, there's okay, sure. Okay.
If I can just make a small comment, the intention of the section 3D is of course to ensure that the innovation that happens is a substantive innovation. So which does not, as again it is driven by the statute, but as Mr. Mehta gave a personal opinion, let me give a personal opinion that I do feel that it may not augur badly for the innovation ecosystem in the country, because what it seeks to promote is more in an innovation which brings about substantive development in technology, which also increases the use and efficacy of the new innovation for the public of India, for the public of the world. So the section 3D as such was made so that evergreening does not happen, but and frivolous innovations do not happen, but more and more, better and better, and more efficacious innovations do happen and are brought to the country. Thank you.
I completely agree with you, and in fact, like I said, I actually agree with the assessment that the Supreme Court prepared. That's not the point. The point is, the optics really look very anti-innovation. I just wanted to make that comment, but I agree with you in terms of the assessment was excellent. You know, I read the entire public opinion. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's go to the next.
Any other question, please?
My name is Amr Khan. We actually met back in early March, but I'm with the bio, and I was with the bio delegation that came in early March. I'd like to follow up on Mr. Mehta's and also Malati's comments regarding, as Mr. Mehta called it, the optics here. I will say that, and I'm not commenting on any of the judgments, but the message that has been heard here in bio, we're talking about 15,000 biotech companies and investors, has been quite negative when it comes to India. India comes up quite often in the big meetings, not the meetings with the Indian government people who are here, but the big meetings in a very negative light. And it's not focused on one opinion, although I will say that the Novartis verdict being so recent has been blown way out of proportion. That said, it is the pattern of decisions that has been very worrisome to the industry investors here in Chicago. So I would appreciate if you could take this message back to your leadership above you, saying that without a counter message from India saying that innovation is welcome, the biotech industry is losing interest in the global biotech industry is losing interest in India. I will say that I've attended the India meetings as well as some of the other country-specific meetings. Other countries, whether it's Brazil, uh, very, very crowded. India, plenty of seats available. So it's a sign that we need to hear a counter message from India saying that we still support innovation in some form or fashion. Otherwise, you'll just see a slow lack of interest. As we said earlier in March, we are not able to have another meeting in India this year after several years in a row of having partner meetings. We can't sustain it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatt. While the reception was a little disturbed while you were talking, but I would again repeat what I was saying, that it is very clear that India does welcome innovation, but it does welcome innovation of a substantive kind, and it does welcome innovation which actually is not frivolous innovation, but actually substantive, good innovation. They are very, very, very welcome in India.
This is Sandra Reardon. I appreciate that comment. I'm with Johnson & Johnson, and I've been listening to much of what's been discussed here at the BIO conference, and I also am very much taken with your comments about the need of the Indian population to have access to medicines and to products. Healthcare is a big issue in India, and we're very sympathetic to that. What I think we need to say to you is that, first of all, Johnson & Johnson is the largest provider of healthcare products in the world, and we would like to partner with the Indian government to help to address some of the problems that the Indian population is experiencing with regard to access to health care. So I think there are many creative solutions that we haven't yet fully explored that we would like to have the opportunity to come in and speak with you about. I know that your job as the patent office is different from the Department of Health and Public Health, but there are issues having to do with the interrelationship of patents and patent law and IP protection to the ability for us to, and the interest for us to make available in your country some of our really important breakthrough products. There's an important tuberculosis product, for instance, that we know that will be very much in demand by the Indians, and it's a tricky product because it's a product that's supposed to be used as a product of last resort. But our concern is that if it's compulsory license, that it will not be in the best interest of Indian patients because of the inability of healthcare practitioners or the unwillingness of healthcare practitioners to abide by some of the indications for use that are part of this drug. So I just want to again express my appreciation to you all for being there this evening. We do look forward to continuing our partnership and our dialogue with you, and look forward to many productive dialogues in the future. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and it is very good to hear that Johnson & Johnson is also interested in partnering with the Indian government in delivering better and more efficacious public health solutions. And I am sure the Department of Health here would also be very interested in hearing from you. As far as participating with the Patent Office is concerned, as Dr. Malti told you in the beginning, that we are in a process of we are trying to improve all the time, and we are involving our stakeholders in that process, and we would welcome you to participate in the discussions and the forums that we arrange, and so that you can contribute to the guidelines, the policies, the developments, the improvements that we are trying to make. As far as the compulsory licensing is concerned, you would know that only there has been one compulsory license since the introduction of the law, and in fact a lot of other countries have through various means delivered compulsory licenses or similar solutions to problems of lack of access to medicines. And the one compulsory license that was issued after a very detailed quasi-judicial process in which all parties were heard and heard sufficiently, and it was a completely speaking order which is still under which was recently heard by the Intellectual Property Appellate Board, which pronounced judgment on it. And I don't think it is something to worry about, because it is not that compulsory license has become the order of the day. There was one order, and there was one order which was a very well reasoned and speaking order. Thank you.
Dr. Malti, any other questions?
Yes, Dr. Ravi, there are principles, Renu will tell you, when we come back, Ravi, Renu, me, you and all of us, we are going to have meetings, because there has been a lot of negative vibes going around because of Novartis. We've been trying to temper it down. What we would like is 2-3 issues that have come up that what we will raise is, just like we came up with the biotech guidelines, people want, like in the US and EP, whenever there's a very good judgment from the Supreme Court or the Federal Circuit, it's like the KSR judgment or the committed judgment, the Patent Office comes out with guidelines based on the judgment. So people are looking forward and asking me, after the Supreme Court judgment which has come up on Section 3D, will the Patent Office, just like in other countries, come out with a guideline? Now we are very clear what is Section 3D. It has become very clear from the Patent or from the Supreme Court. So one of the things that people said is, we would like to see more guidelines. May not be that the hard fact, but maybe some guidelines on the Novartis judgment, on the ICAT order on care, and so that people can read it, look at it, and understand it better. This is something that I think is very important. The other thing that also people are looking at is, what is the backlog? They are very worried that it is more than 4 or 5 years that doesn't get examined, and the backlog is worrying a lot of people. I have told them that there are several examiners, and I think one of the things is getting the examiners to speed to do the substantial examination of the application. So one of the important messages that I got is backlog. Why is your country taking so much time? And I've been telling them this is the issue, new examiners are coming, and so this. So that is one thing. The other thing that is worrying people is regarding pre-grant opposition. I know we have some orders. They keep saying, we keep hearing and say that there are several pre-grant oppositions going on. Can they all be consolidated? And it shouldn't be that one pre-grant opposition is over, the second pre-grant opposition starts, the third pre-grant opposition starts. So they want some clarity on, from the Patent Office, is can we consolidate all the pre-grant opposition and how to manage that? So that is the thing, just as you come out with biotech guidelines, they're really looking for more guidelines that people can use. The other thing is, I'm talking to Renu, so Ravi, me, Renu, we're all going to come up with position paper, because there are negative vibes, there are negative things about the Patent Office. We want to clarify, because we are working day in and day out, and it is not what is the ground situation. So we really want to put people at ease and want to tell them that it is not a bad judgment, the Novartis judgment, and people should not look at India in a negative light. The CS is not a bad judgment, but 1 or 2 people of us doing it is not enough. I want to come out with a position paper. Dr. Renu is taking it up full force. We will have a meeting, Secretary DBT, Ravi, Moon, Renu, and all of us, on what is the feeling now, how do we come up with some things, that at least we put things in the right perspective.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I'll just answer that. A couple of things I would like to say on that. One, that you did. Are you hearing?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I was just saying that that you're concerned about Section 3D guidelines. We will be issuing guidelines consequent to that, and not only on that, we do intend to issue guidelines on certain other fields of invention also, and hopefully in the coming year we will be able to issue guidelines on at least 2 further fields of invention, and we have been thinking and planning for issuing guidelines on Section 3D also, so subsequent to the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, and we do hope to do that. Second, about the backlog, let me assure you that we are also worried about that, and we are taking steps about that. In fact, only you would know that possibly the examiners in the Indian Patent Office are quite overpressed for examination, because they actually do more examinations in a month than in most other countries. And so it is basically a function of the number of examiners we have. And to that effect, we have already recruited 150 extra examiners last year, and we are planning to recruit another 100 this year. And we have made a plan in which over a period of the next 3-4 years, we have planned and submitted to the sanctioning authorities for creation of posts and recruitment of examiners to an extent that over the next 4 or 5 years, we hope to bring down the backlog to within 1 year of submission of the request for examination. So we are planning to come to a situation in the next say 4 or 5 years where every application for which a request for examination has been submitted is examined within 1 year of the request for examination. And third, about the pre-grant opposition, we do try to ensure that where there is more than one pre-grant opposition pending, they are clubbed together and heard together, and we will address this concern further since you have raised it. Thank you. Dr. Kardam would also like to say.
Dr. Malati, hello. You must be aware about the several pre-grant opposition where the Delhi High Court in Snehlata Gupte case has clearly issued certain guidelines to the controller to deal with the several oppositions, 5 one after another. In that decision, there was a direction to the controller that to issue guidelines that all the opposition, pre-grant oppositions are heard together, and there should be a notice on the website and all. So consequent to that decision, the Controller General Office has issued direction to all the controllers and examiners in the Patent Office to hear all the oppositions, pre-grant oppositions together, so that the other party is not able to file any pre-grant opposition thereafter. So this issue has already been addressed by issuing a guidelines by the Controller General. That is what I wanted to add. Thank you.
So, Dr. Malti, do you have something for Dr. Nilanjana since she is here? Any specific question for her?
Yeah. I'm Vikas Dandekar. I represent Foundation Youth. I'm here to cover bio. Sir, something that I have been picking up from this conference is about the same thing that the fellow speakers here mentioned, a lot of negative, vibes going on about Section 3D. But at the same time, we've seen some other countries actually going ahead and talking about restricting incremental innovation. One is like Australia, South Africa also done something very recently. Have there been approaches made to you in terms of learning, how to kind of go about framing their intellectual property laws? That is one. And you also mentioned, sir, about Section 3D and framing some more guidelines as to understanding enhanced efficacy better. Can you throw light on these two aspects?
I would like to clarify one issue, that even in the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, it is not incremental innovation that has been restricted from patenting at all. It is only incremental innovation which does not serve the purpose or does not enhance the efficacy of the invention, which does not enhance the efficacy of a known substance when a new form is created, that it is restricted. Incremental innovation, specifically the Honorable Supreme Court has said that it is not restricting the patentability of incremental innovation as long as there is enhanced efficacy to it. So that is a message I would like to make very clear. It's not that incremental innovation is restricted, but it has to have enhanced efficacy. Second, while you are very right that certain other countries are also, we have also got to know that they are also moving, but that is more through the media, moving towards getting in similar provisions. But we as such have not been contacted, at least the Indian Patent Office has not been contacted as such for sharing our experiences with those countries. I think that is what you wanted. Thank you.
No, sir, one question about the additional inputs about Section 3D that you mentioned, about some more guidelines that will be coming.
Yeah, I did say that we will be working towards making further guidelines. Yes, we did. Yes, we will.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of these terms have become very clear that Section 3D is for pharma, medicines and biotech. So it would be very useful if the patient doctor comes and says that it may not be applicable to others. I mean, that's the message that we want to give to
No,
people.
it will be applicable.
Finally, Dr. Renu Swarup would like to say anything.
Before Dr. Renu Swarup, let me tell you that Section 3D at no place says that it is restricted only to pharma or biotech. Section 3D is a general section which does not have any restriction as far as the field of invention is concerned. So we cannot as such restrict that application of Section 3D only to pharma or biotech. Thank you.
I want to just say because somehow the Supreme Court judgment, and so if the Supreme Court, that's what I wanted to refer to the Supreme Court judgment. I'm not talking about the statute, but how the Supreme Court judgment views Section 3D is what I thought about it.
Good evening, and thank you very much, all of you, for being there. This is Dr. Renu Swarup. We haven't met in person, but I'll be very happy to come back and have more detailed discussions with you all. You have got the flavor of what the discussions have been here over the last 2 days. Also to let you know that this doesn't really worry us too much. Probably negative vibes, but it's important to sort of charge us and get us together to get whatever we anyway have been planning to do to get all the guidelines and all the other position papers very clear. But yes, it's also important that probably it's also a part of a very well-planned strategy to try and see that India comes out with their position. So that's the feeling we got here as well. We will come back and have more detailed discussions. I will actually present to you all my own perspective from the government point as to what our feeling was from what we've heard. And as Malti has already summarized for you, that I think it's important and very rightly responded by all of you that we do need to put it clearly that these are judgments which are single, do not obviously reflect the policy as a whole. And this is what we've been trying to say. We've had a couple of sessions in which we've had the US-India groups who've been in these bilateral discussion meetings. We've had their people from their commerce, we've had their industry talking to us on these issues. We've tried to convey the same message. What you have, obviously, your being here and conveying the message has a totally different impact from us sitting on this side and trying to present it on your behalf. So I would just like to say thank you very much. We look forward to coming and discussing. Dr. Jha has already briefed you, and we will try and see what best we can do in this regard. Mansi, would you like to have any comments? It's very late for them in the day, so they need to go back.
I'll give it to you after. Thank you very much, Dr. Swarup. And let me thank all the participants on that side for having come here and interacted with us and given us very valuable suggestions. And we do appreciate and take on board your concerns. And while at the same time clarifying that we are as such an organization which works under the statute created by India, and we do hope to deliver better and better services as we go along, and we do hope that you will be a part of the process of improvement and development that we have taken up, and we will continue to do that. Thank you very much, and Dr. Dhar may like to say something.
Nothing special. Okay, I thank all of you and enjoy your stay and give us good inputs when you come back. Bye-bye.
Very reassuring statements from all of you. Thank you very much.